and ultimately increasingly accepted as a likely source of this pandemic. So I suppose in this question, Kim, I'm asking you to ponder how Fauci, like how the media corroborated amenable theories, and how Fauci and other scientists, not necessarily Fauci, but how there are royalty payments from pharma companies paid out in ways that would seem to potentially have induce conflict of interest. I wonder if you've got any thoughts around that.
Well, I mean, we would love to know how much Anthony Fauci actually gets, right? When he was questioned about it, he says, none of your business or something along those lines, essentially. So we don't know fully, we're not getting a ton of transparency, I think, on, or, even if the information is out there, people have to dig for it. It's not easily, readily available. It's not very transparent how that all works. The payments from big pharma, like Moderna, and the vaccine, the most recent vaccine, was developed in conjunction with the federal government. So how much is the NIH getting in conjunction of rolling out that Moderna vaccine? I don't think many of us have like a full grasp of that. So there's certainly, there's a lot of questions around all of that. I mean, there's just a lot of, and one thing also that this pandemic really exposed, I think, is how science, and I think people started to kind of get into this when they started questioning Bill Gates and his motive, and then starting to look at even the amount of money that Bill Gates funnels into these various different known established medical organizations that people turn to for all of their information. You got Johns Hopkins, you have Gavi, you have the WHO, you have these various different organizations that none of us questioned prior to the pandemic. We never questioned their motives. Yeah, we questioned big pharma. That's been on the questioning platform for a long time, but questioning the actual institutions of science wasn't something that really happened prior to the pandemic. But the pandemic sort of exposed this relationship that we were unaware of before, and that was that these organizations are funded by somebody. Somewhere they're getting their money. Where are they getting their money? And when we started looking into that, we started to see, well, a lot of the money disproportionately comes from Bill Gates. So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And when you look at even, for example, the WHO, and a lot of people were questioning the WHO and the motivations of some of the things they were talking about, or some of the guidance they were giving, and you look at them and you see that they're funded heavily by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They're also heavily funded by Gavi, which is the vaccine alliance, the Global Vaccine Alliance. And then you find out that, well, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation heavily funds Gavi. So they're giving money to an organization that gives money to the WHO while also giving money to the WHO directly, which means they're indirectly and directly combined giving more money to the WHO than I think anyone except perhaps the United States government. They might even, it's really close on how much funding actually comes through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we're seeing that through not just the WHO, but we're also seeing that happening in all of these other organizations that we rely on for this clinical research. And so that exposure, I think, of the big money interests and the influence it has on these organizations and their reliance on these funds. And then because they're reliant on the funds, they don't want to go against the agenda of whoever it is that's funding them. And that's common sense, I think, for many of us to understand that relationship. We just didn't really know it was happening so much in the realm of our scientific institutions. That was something I think that was really shocking to many of us. So,